Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to this reading for this full moon total lunar eclipse that we're having in Virgo on the 14th of March. It's going to happen around 2:54 Eastern Standard Time. So always take that time differential into consideration when you're trying to figure out when exactly this is happening for you and wherever you are in the world. Also, as I always say, where is this happening in your personal chart, right? So where do you have that Virgo Pisces access in your personal chart? Because that's always going to give you a more specific message for what you're dealing with. I have said it for many, many years. If you don't want to learn astrology as a whole, that's fine. But I always advise that you at least study your chart, your personal chart, just a little bit to get such profound inspiration and information that you would not have had if you didn't study astrology. Or again, just at least your personal chart. This is the second time that I've started this recording. I was about 15 minutes in before I realized there was no sound. So it kind of sucks. But that's okay. The beautiful thing about this eclipse is that we're going to see it. If we want to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning, which I know I will be. It's Friday, so I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning for work. So I'm going to be excited because I'm going to be driving to work and see this eclipse. I think that's pretty freaking cool. But we're actually going to see it in the northern, not northern hemisphere. Let me rephrase this: North America, South America. You will actually fully see this if you want to be awake. You will see the eclipse itself. That's exciting because that doesn't happen a lot. There's so many things, and I'm trying to remember what I said in the first recording. So many things that I want to talk about with this full moon. But let's start with just the pattern of it. Let's talk about that for a minute. The pattern is clearly a bucket pattern, what we would call a bucket pattern. We don't really count Lilith and Juno, and the moon and Mars are at least 30 degrees away from each other. So this is a bucket, meaning that the moon itself is like the handle of all of this, right? So everything is going through the moon. Everything. So you have that effect coming into consideration, which is that there's so many things, there's so many layers of this that I want to point out for how explosive and powerful this eclipse is going to be. Not to mention that, just to start with, it's an eclipse, right? It's a full moon. 1, 2, it's an eclipse. 3, there's a bucket pattern. Our ancestors used to think that, right? We thought about that. Anytime they had an eclipse happen, it was an indication of, oh no, there's a flood coming, there's a famine coming, something's going to happen, some kind of natural, big, huge disaster is going to come. So our ancestors believed in this powerful sort of a premonition that the moon would give us, and we're going to have it again. So I'm not going to be surprised if you deal with that. Now look at where Virgo is in your chart. Say if it's on the cusp of your second house, with Virgo being the archetype of the virgin and the archetype of the perfectionist and the archetype of the servant. What we're really looking at is well, there is sort of an expression aspect to this, but how can we heal in a healthy way whatever it is that we're dealing with. So if it's on the cusp of the second house, how do you spend in a healthy way? And that's just not financially, because remember, the second house is like the treasure chest of the astrology, right? That's a treasure chest of your chart. So that's where you hold things in. So how do you spend energy in a healthy way if it was on your second? If it's on the cusp of the seventh house, how are your relationships healthy? How can you heal those relationships? How do you serve others? And how do you serve yourself in return? Because Virgo heals others by healing itself, and it heals itself by healing others. Virgo is a very efficient and effective sign. It's a very detail-oriented sign, probably the most detailed. I know everybody goes to Gemini, but Gemini can get very, very distracted, where Virgo, if anything, can get hyper-fixated on things. So if, say, Virgo is on the 10th house cusp of your chart, then is your career as healthy as it can be? Or is your idea of what you want to do with your life, what you want to be when you grow up, is that as healthy as it can be? Is your reputation, right, how people know you, is that pretty healthy? Or does there need to be something that needs to be healed there? If it's on the cusp of your 5th house, are your creative pursuits as healthy as they can be? Is your sense of joy in life as healthy as it can be? If you're dating, is that as healthy as you can be? Do you put yourself out there too much and not really try to take a risk on a relationship? Or do you not even try at all, right? That's Virgo puts a plan into place for wherever it is in your chart. It likes to plan things out, and it likes to make it healthy, and it likes to do it in an effective and efficient way, right? So this eclipse is going to really highlight that and make it as powerful as it possibly can be. There are even a couple of other things that kind of highlight this powerful energy, because the second thing I want to talk about with this full moon eclipse is the fact that Mercury stations retrograde exactly on this day. So let me take a sip of my coffee before I start that, because like I said, I already started chatting away, and you know me, I will ramble, especially when it comes to the planets. But this is Mercury. This is Hermes. He is the only one in mythology that was allowed to travel between this world and that world, because he was the messenger. So he was allowed to go meet Hades in the underworld, right? He was allowed to do that, and the only one. So when Mercury goes retrograde, what we're really doing on a conscious level is going from the conscious to the unconscious. We're becoming aware of things hidden. We're becoming aware of things that we hold within that we have not accessed before. So Mercury retrograde allows us to kind of remind ourselves of things that we were too busy to pay attention to. Because when Mercury is direct, he's too busy in the conscious world. When he's retrograde, he is forced to stop, which he does not like doing. This is Hermes, right? He's the fastest little guy. He's the closest to the sun, closest to Apollo. So he doesn't like to stop, especially in Aries. And he's been forced to slow down and stop in Aries. And in Aries, having the warrior archetype kind of be highlighted, when it's Mercury retrograde in Aries, we have the wounded warrior archetype that gets highlighted, which Chiron retrograde in Aries has taught us enough about that. But now we're getting even more of that. So do you feel like a victim? How do you feel like a victim? Do you feel like you have to fight for everything? Do you feel like you have to scratch and claw your way through life? Do you feel like you're not good enough? Because I know that we look to, let's say, Libra, or we look to even Leo when it comes to self-worth. Sometimes we look at Taurus for that. But Aries has an aspect of that, of self-worth, because Aries wants to do good. Aries wants to do the best, especially for itself, but also for others, right? Aries wants that kind of recognition of, look at my hard work, look at what I did, look at what I started, right? It's kind of like that. Like Aries is a toddler in a way, in that where it's like, look at me, look at what I did. Isn't this cool? Let me go on to the next thing, because I just got distracted and I lost interest in that. So now I'm going to go on to the next thing. So Mercury in Aries is even harder for us, because we can ping pong our way through hobbies or interests or whatever sparks that fire within us, right? Because Aries is that spark of fire. So when he's retrograde in Aries, and everything kind of just slows down and time stops, we don't have almost, what's the word I want to use? We don't have those distractions. We have to look at ourselves. We have to look in the mirror. And depending on the mood of Aries, Aries can like to look itself in the mirror, or it can hate what it sees in the mirror. A lot of Arians have a layer of self-doubt and fear of facing the self. Aries and Capricorn are the hardest with that. So anyway, I think it's really significant to see that Mercury stations retrograde. I keep wanting to say direct. While Venus is still retrograde. Remember, she's still retrograde, right? In the same sign, of course. So it's like, there's a huge highlight of relationship to self. Now, another big thing that we cannot ignore is that this moon is making a trine over to Uranus, which means it's making a sextile, which means the sun is making a sextile to you. Sorry, I'm still, if you can hear it in my voice, I'm pretty nasally right now because I'm having another wave of this sickness, whatever it is. I don't know. It's not COVID. It's not the flu. I don't know what the fuck I got, but it's been the last week and a half of just off and on. I think my immune system is just a little low. Plus, it's springtime coming up, so my Allergies are killing me. But anyway, when you have one planet making a trine to one other planet, if they're in opposition to each other, so the moon and the sun are in, let me just show you, right? The moon and the sun are in opposition to each other. So because the moon is making a trine over to Uranus, that means that the sun is going to make a sextile over to Uranus. That's how that works. It's just math. Lovely math in astrology. But this kind of aspect coincides with what this Aries energy with Mercury stationing retrograde and Venus retrograde, because it talks, this moon in opposition to Uranus really talks about, or opposition, trining Uranus really talks about this emotional independence, because Uranus, especially in Taurus, talking about that self-worth, right, self-love, but Taurus is very in the moment. Taurus is very mindful archetype. So it's very emotional in general, but then there's that emotional independence because Uranus does not like to conform. Uranus is not the same. We are not the same. I am a Martian. That's Uranus, okay? So, and Aquarius, of course, with that. So this emotional independence feels good because it's a trine. It feels easy to do this. It feels easy to make a quick move or to look for that need, that emotional need, because this is the moon, right? So there's this emotional deep need for space, for time, to figure it out alone. And I love that it's an earth trine, so it makes us feel a little bit more grounded and a little bit more safe and a little bit more secure. So we have these kind of, maybe possibly these rebellious moods, this kind of like fleeting, changing mood, but it was for a good reason, because it's almost like we received this culture shock of where we might feel fenced in, where we might feel trapped, where we might feel stuck, even in domestic life, because it's the moon. So even in our home life, where we might feel like we're not where we need to be, we get that itch, right? With this kind of a trine, especially a trine, because it feels, again, easy to do. I'm so sorry that the birds are squawking. I might pause until they calm down. It's morning, so of course they're screaming at me. See, every time I stop talking, they stop. It's so cute, but it's annoying. I love them, but they drive me crazy. Talking about home life. Just kidding. I love my birds. But yeah, so we get this itch that we haven't been able to scratch. And again, because Mercury is stationing retrograde during this full moon, we can look at that. Finally, we can look at that. I'm talking about also, I'm going to link Mercury to this because it's got this half square. Oh, I can speak. This half square to Uranus while the moon is making a trine over to Uranus. And again, the sun is making a sextile to Uranus. So all of this is kind of getting linked to Uranus in a way. So where do you intuitively feel like there's a problem, right? Where do you intuitively feel like you're willing to face the repercussion to create a change? Because there's like this sudden, again, almost this shocking revelation. We will get epiphanies. You will get intense synchronicities. You will get an intense dream, likely. There is definitely something beautiful and intuitive about this because it is a Pisces sun. And remember, Saturn and Pisces, I'm getting further away at this point because we already had that exact conjunction with the sun. And that's still there, though, right? Even though it's a separating aspect, it's still there. So you got to think about that also the moon is in opposition to Saturn. So let's talk about that last here before we jump into the tarot, because we're doing the horoscope first and the tarot. I don't know if I said that in this video, because I know I said it in the last video that I tried to record. But we are going to also look at the tarot in the oracle. So last thing, I want to talk about this separating aspect with the moon and and Saturn being in opposition to each other. Because a Virgo Pisces axis is very much this world and that world. So again, we have that energy with Mercury stationing retrograde, going into the underworld, meeting up with Hades, having a message to receive and send there. But with Virgo being, excuse me, the physical world, and Pisces being that spiritual world, we have a connection of heaven and earth. Okay? Um, so I'm kind of like wrapping it up in a way, bringing it back to the natural energy of this full moon being in Virgo Pisces axis. But it's logic and intuition, imagination in the physical world, right? Virgo is again details, plans, order, structure, which also is Saturn, right? So Saturn gets kind of weird in Pisces. It always does. Gets a little confused about what order means. And then you got this trine over to Uranus. It's like, yeah, let's right. Uranus is like, let's break out of jail. Uranus is like, let's go to jail. Let's do something crazy. So yeah, so there is definitely that, like, what's order and what's justice and what's right and what's moral between what's the flow and what do we do if we just let the world take us where it needs to go. Let life take us where it needs to go, because Pisces doesn't plan at all. Okay, you ever meet a Pisces? They're like, yeah, I'll be ready in 5 minutes. You can be on your way. And then you get over there and they're still sitting on the bed playing with something sparkly. Pisces, just they're always in their own world. I love it. I do. I wish I could be more Piscean in a way, which is kind of funny because that's where my midheaven is. So that's where I'm reaching for. But anyway, yeah. So this Pisces axis, this Pisces Virgo axis, again, both have a layer of health, especially with Virgo. But Virgo does it in the health again of your relationships, the health of your body, the health of your home. But Pisces is what's spiritually healthy. Pisces is like, what's healthy in the relationship between you and the universe? What's healthy about things that you don't see? So again, there's even more of that. So a lot of the unseen will be seen with this full moon. Let's look at the cards. All right, let's see what the cards have to say. This full moon eclipse in Virgo, please. There it is. Offerings. Wow. Yeah. But like I said, because of that connection between heaven and earth, and I was talking about it, I think in the weekly, or maybe it was, excuse me, maybe it was the weekly for a specific sign. I can't remember, but I was talking about the connection between this world and that world. I think the mic might have just gotten too loud, so I'm sorry if it does sound too loud all of a sudden. So there's the offering between us and our ancestors and our team of light, our spirit guides, our angels, and then the universe itself. I'm just trying to get Aphrodite, life force. Are you serious? Yeah, goddess Aphrodite coming up. Venus, there she is. Yeah. I think these two cards together are beautiful because it's like, what are you giving out as far as life force energy goes? And we talked about that as far as the astrology goes. I'm having a lot of technical difficulties. Not surprised. Mercury is gonna go retrograde. So the life force, your chi, your prana, right? It sits in the solar plexus. It sits right in the chest. Oh, look at guys. Look at my... Oh, see, I'm distracted. Look, it kind of looks like a rainbow that my mic is reflecting with the light off of it. It wasn't doing that before I adjusted the light just now. And there's a rainbow here. Okay, wow. Oh, it just clicked. Okay, we're going to see rainbows probably as our sign from our spirit guides or universe. So look for rainbows. But yeah, your life force. This is like... We don't talk about it enough. I was actually... oh, beautiful. Thank you, spirit guides. I just went through... I follow this one... she's a geneticist on TikTok. And she answered a question that somebody asked. Because somebody asked, can your DNA be changed if you go through trauma, if you go through pain, if you go through abuse? And she answered it on a scientific level. Okay, this is I wish I could... If I can remember... Exactly. Well, I'll just go to her TikTok, find the video, and then I'll try to remember to link it in the description box of this video because it's interesting. So she explains it like this. Our DNA code is like a book. All right. And cells will go to specific parts of that book to do what it needs to do. Right. So, and she used the example of famine and hunger. She said if a cell is constantly going to the same part of that, like usually the cell will go, like a normal person, the cell will go to eat when you're hungry. But the cell will go to the part of a DNA code that says start burning fat because we're starving, right? If it gets used to that, then it will be locked in on that chapter of this book of our DNA code, and it's going to be hard to change. So she was saying it's not that you can change your DNA code, it's that you can change the way your cells read your DNA, which is crazy, right? Like it's mind-blowing in a way. And she also said that can be transferred. That can be, when you have kids, that can be handed down to your kids. So if your parents were always experiencing famine, then you could have a hard time gaining weight, or you could have like a hard time eating because your genetics, your DNA code was handed down, that your cells are constantly saying you need to burn everything you can so that we can have energy because we're always starving. We're constantly starving. So, and then someone, and I looked at the comments because I always look at the comments, and I love it because I was going to say it, and someone said, there it is, generational karma, generational trauma. Literally, scientifically proven. Why am I bringing that up? Because that's life force, right? So if your DNA processes using life force in a certain way, let me rephrase that. If your cells look to your DNA on how to process life force in a certain way, it can be hard to reprogram it. To reprogram our cells, again, this is scientific, like information. This is proven. It can be hard to reprogram that and to tell the cells it's okay. Like we're not trying to just survive here, right? We're not trying to just eat to survive. We're trying to live life. So what are you offering as far as that? I know that offerings card means something like offerings again to our ancestors, but if we link those two together, it really is about generational trauma, which we didn't talk about at all actually in the astrology. But if we were to bring it to that would be that it's in opposition to Saturn and it's trining over to Uranus, and technically the moon is in opposition to Neptune, right? It's only 5 degrees. So I would count that too. So that's a lot of generational stuff that we might experience. Let's get some tarot. Okay, that's King of Pentacles and that High Priestess, I think, together is literally Uranus and Taurus. There's that intuition that I was talking about, self-worth. Yeah, again, our ideas, creating some powerful changes, but really getting clear on it with that Queen of Swords. We are getting a bird's eye perspective on our life, on the way that we think, on the way that we communicate, our decisions. Very level-headed, very clear. We're getting clarity twice there. I mean, the Queen of Swords has the Ace of Swords, and we have the Ace of Swords out. So there's a new beginning, a triumphant expression mentally of what we can accept. And anytime I see the Ace of Swords with the Four of Wands, I mean, all these cards together, it's kind of like the truth. Right? What is the truth? The subjective truth and the objective truth of you, your environment, your home life, for sure, because this is a moon, so this is all of our emotional needs. This is our domestic life. This is our intuition that comes up, our dreams, our subconscious and unconscious, our roots, not only our family roots, which I love that the King of Pentacles is out because he's my family man. But our roots are our habits. Our habits, and especially our emotional habits. So I will say all of us together, there is almost like either something that you've already known is going to be presented and shown to you, or something hidden, something unseen, something which I keep repeating, and it might be the title of this video. Yeah, something that has not been revealed yet will be revealed. There's definitely information or news, and this can be something, again, especially with life force and offering, this can just be how you use your life force, how you use your energy, your chi. That could be the information that comes in, because it is a very spiritual moon. All right, very spiritual moon. This is about making a huge decision that changes everything. Especially, or at least for now, I should say. We're all going to do it. We're all going to do something that we've been thinking about doing, or that, again, has not been presented to us. Like the path forward has not been revealed, but now will be revealed. That's what the cards are saying, which is interesting. I know for me, I know exactly what this is going to be, because I've been thinking about it. And now that Mercury is going to station retrograde, and I will make that announcement, I'm sure, on here. Yeah, where do you, also, there's a side message here that I think I'm going to close it out, because my headache is coming back, so I'm sorry. I'm losing my energy here of talking about life force. Where do you need to cut out a situation where you might have been, or just in life in general, right? Like, where do you go back and forth? Where do you go back and forth? And this could be something like, I always start smoking and quit smoking, and start smoking and quit smoking. Or this can be something like, I always give to that person and then I say I'm done. I always give and then I say I'm done. I always give and then I say I'm done. Or it's like, I always do everything for everybody at work, and then they expect me to do everything for everybody at work. That. And then I stop. And then everyone wonders why. Where do you go up and down? Where do you go back and forth? What is looping, right? What is the infinity loop that you need to cut, that you need to end, that you need to stop, because it's affecting your life force? I hope this helped. Thank you for being here for 27 minutes. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was informative and the guidance helped you out in any way, shape, or form. If you need to email me, it's in the information below. Everything is always in the information below if I need to put something. And have a wonderful full moon. Manifest what you want to manifest. You're a powerful, abundant being. Sending you all of my love, and I'll see you in the next one.